William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
Board attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Dallas Code, Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept in brief observance of time constraints. Disruptors, visitors, and registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code, Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion of any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Okay. And our first speaker today is Mr. Phillips. Okay.
3101 Luxor Way, Dallas, Texas 75233. Thank you for allowing me to speak. You do have documents that I emailed you on yesterday. While at the Hampton Library on yesterday, I was in the process of emailing you my medical records and my pharmacy records from 2007, alleging that the intentional misdiagnosis of bipolar to fabricate an untrue trail behind the scenes is a part of this ongoing cover-up. They didn't allow me to access my documents while using the computer non-coincidentally. This is not the first time. I find it inhuman how you massively unleash this criminal conspiracy to force open while simultaneously covering up this ongoing corruption. The reason that I was taken to Green Oaks by premeditation to intercept court documents. Honorable Jenkins, for the first time in the paper today, I read that on Sunday, Dallas Morning News reported allegations against you. I find it ironic that you even had a need to say anything. But just as you feel a need to protect your name and your dignity, I feel myself to be no better than or no less than you. I never was afraid to endure Dallas County's or Dallas, Texas repercussions. I'm going to continue to endure your repercussions to give you back in peace and truth, to say that I wasn't the first thrown under the bus for speaking of corruption in Dallas, and sadly I won't be the last. But I'm going to be the one to give it back to you to say, even behind the scenes, the same connections and networks can fabricate trails for big kahunas to read, to premeditate making decisions in the court. What I want to share with you is that when I was taken to Green Oaks, they intercepted those documents. You know that. In OCR right now, case 06172252 is a case against University Texas of Dallas for removing Microsoft Word from their computers as retaliation for me preparing court documents in 1681-38, 1682-79, 1683-84. They told me that I was making false allegations that Microsoft Word was ever on their computers, and that it was never on their computers. They continue to lie to OCR. That's ongoing blacklisting and retaliation for allegedly me not opening. Let me say this for the record, the public record. This is a government record. My infinity no to open is just that. It's never going to change. I do not commit unpardonable sins, that is same-sex relations, open, nor do I commit suicide or murder. But your corruption is totally out of control, and I'm going to give it back in peace and truth. Thank you for having me speak.
And our next public speaker is Mr. Mallory York.
morning. My name is Mallory York Jr. I'm at 1210 South Lamar Street, Dallas, Texas. Once again, I'm here. I gave you guys, last time I was here, I gave you guys information from the Department of Justice, which is going back to the Due Process Clause and the 14th Amendment. From here, on page 2, from last time I seen you guys, as far as the family courts not giving, mostly fathers, no due process. And from the Department of Justice, I just have questions, will Dallas County continue to incarcerate men that do not have the ability to pay what I like to call state support? Will Dallas County make alternatives as far as what they have? Can you think of the name of it? Will they make do as far as like put the guy on some type of probation or something like that versus putting him in jail? It also states that the county should make, the court should make or provide meaningful notice as far as the fathers or, parents of these fines before they incarcerate these people. It also, in this memo from the Department of Justice, courts must safeguard against unconstitutional practices by the courts, staffs, and private contractors. These are just some questions I just have to ask, and can you guys answer these questions? Are we incarcerating these guys for non-payment of fines or because they're poor or indigents? Can you guys answer those questions?
So this is your opportunity to speak, but the rules don't allow us to really interact with you during this time because this isn't on our agenda.
Okay. So I will continue. In your hands, I gave you 2 sheets of paper. First one is a violation warning, denial of rights under the color of law. Denying these men due process or mothers due process in the county, in the family courts. What's more important than your family? What would you sacrifice for your family? That's what I'm here for. That we give these fathers equal time with their children. That's really my argument. I'm gonna keep on arguing, and that's pretty much it. And the other one is for the non-custodial parent affidavit of direct payment. You pick your kids up, you feed your kids, all that stuff counts. So, thank you guys so much. And John, thank you for your 30 years. Appreciate it. And thank you all, you guys too.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Melinda Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns and complaints. Today I will be speaking to you about the gross negligence murder of my dad. In 2014, my dad, Honorary Louis Green, was admitted to the Select Specialty Hospital, South Dallas. At such time, they left his mouth open, which caused acute bacteria in his death. Once it was confirmed as gross negligence murder, my family filed a lawsuit against Select Medical Corporation, Select Specialty Hospital, South Dallas, and Dr. Adolphus Gist. After filing our lawsuit, the defendants fled the scene of a crime and moved into the Johnson Building of Baylor, Dallas. Sally Montgomery was the judge appointed to the case. On June the 20th, 2017, I had to call 911 on Judge Montgomery due to my sister and I being assaulted and threatened. We went to the Dallas police station to get the report. I received the report, yet they refused audio of the 911 call. So we went to the sheriff's department and was given the runaround there also as well. I went through protocol to meet with Sheriff Lupe Valdez, who has an open door policy to this day. She has refused to call or notify me to speak with me. Judge Sally Montgomery, retired Judge Ken Sims, Michael O'Neill, and Susan Rankin, Judges Ken Tapscott, Eric Moyer, Mark Greenberg, Sherry McFarland, Marcellus Moore, judges that's been appointed to uphold the Constitution of the United States and its laws have shown themselves to be corrupt, denying due process, denying default judgment without defendants or attorneys present, assault, threats, hearing cases without being recused, the civil conspiracy and obstruction of justice of the Dallas County and district judges is treason. Since the beginning of the lawsuit, we have been stripped of due process, our civil and constitutional rights. We have been reporting all these actions of the civil conspiracy and obstruction of justice to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. We are fighting a multi-million-dollar corporation, and it is obvious that they can pay their way out. With the actions of the judges, we have been disrespected and they are disrespected and disregarding the law. I have been blessed to be on this planet, and I have seen a lot. I have been through a lot. I've been through domestic violence. I have been through a whole lot of things. And this is the worst corruption I've ever seen with judges. They are not looking at the laws. They're not respecting the laws. My dad had no right to die the way he did. And for the court system to disrespect the law is unconstitutional. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Ms. Emma Jones.
Can't hear you.
Oh, Ms. Emma Jones? Ms. Emma Jones. And I'm not seeing Emma Jones. Our next speaker is Mr. Robert Ciccarelli. Robert's also our last speaker.
Judge, I saw a Tasha Johnson on the list.
Did I miss somebody? I'm sorry. I apologize. Miss Tasha Johnson. Miss Tasha Johnson. Sorry about that, Tasha. Good out of this. Thanks.
Hi. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns and complaints. On August 1st, 2017 and October 3rd, 2017, my mother, Linda Lewis, and my aunt, Laura Roberts, have stood before you with some of these same concerns and complaints. My granddad, Honorary Louis Green, was a veteran who fought for this country to ensure equality. I was very saddened to see judges not showing him the same honor and fighting for him in this gross negligence murder case. I have been to several court hearings and noticed firsthand the violation of constitutional and civil rights. Even though the law clearly states default judgment is a binding judgment in favor of either party based on some failure to take action by the other party, most often it is a judgment in favor of a plaintiff when the defendant has not responded to a summons or has failed to appear before a court of law. I witnessed judges going against the law, not granting default judgments, knowing that attorneys did not file in a timely manner, nor did the defendants or attorneys show up in court for the default judgment. My family was told by the judge that we should file a motion to strike due to civil conspiracy. We should have automatically been granted default judgment, as the law clearly states. Just from those two crimes right there, it looks like straight corruption. How can Judge Sally Montgomery, retired Judge Ken Sims, Michael O'Neill, and Susan Rankin, Judges Ken Tapscott, Eric Moyer, and Mark Greenberg, Cheryl McFarland, and Marcella Moore go against 28 U.S. Code 453, which clearly states, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will administer justice without respect to persons and do equal rights to the poor and to the rich, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as under the Constitution and laws of the United States, so help me God." So how can judges be appointed to uphold our constitutional rights and its laws, yet clearly violate our constitutional rights in our faith as if we are illiterate and don't know our rights to the Constitution? The crime of betraying one's country by waging war against the action of betraying someone or something, treachery, disloyalty, betrayal, and faithlessness. The crime of treason requires a treacherous intent. It shows their treacherous intent by their illegal actions against the Constitution. Anyone who violates the Constitution of the United States is a traitor. By all the actions that these judges have shown, you can obviously see that this multi-billion-dollar company has been given the right to murder my granddad and move to another location without justice. My mother, Linda Lewis, has firsthand experience on corruption in the judicial system, and being pro se, she knows the law. My mom and my family has been fighting this corporation for the death of my granddad who fought for this country. And from what I've been seeing, I'm 42 years old. And from what I've been seeing, it's unrighteousness, it's unreal, and it's unfair. When I went to school, I was taught that the law was supposed to be behind us. But from what I'm seeing, we're all by ourselves. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Our last speaker today is Mr. Robert Ciccarelli.
Good afternoon, everybody. On the sheet, I talked about major problems, Metro Care, colleges, and Housing First. I'm going to just be talking about the colleges today. I've had several meetings with a couple meetings with Ms. Daniel and Larry James at CEO City Square, and I'm just appalled about the colleges at this particular time. I understand it goes to the county. Talked to Larry James about this, and he says the county's never asked him to give any reports about the colleges. Since the college has been open, it's been very, very quiet. The colleges is drug infested, has prostitution, and a lot of problems with because they can bring in the drugs. They don't have to search their bags at all. I'm very troubled with this because I was in the Dallas Morning News 3 years ago. I'm a typical client at the colleges, and I would be smoking crack cocaine 24/7 and doing prostitution if I was there. I've turned down many places because of this. I am clean today through the help of Dominic Collins and Allison Grinter, and I would never want to use crack again. But what's going on at the colleges, and you're all responsible. Why haven't you brought it up at all? Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. That you're supposed to be responsible, Larry James is supposed to come to the county about this. Okay? Now, I'm just curious because if it's people you don't like, whatever, I am worried about crack cocaine that might commit suicide on other people, on me. I've had sometimes using crack cocaine, when I come down off it, I want to pull a gun to my head. Okay? But right now, I am troubled very much of the interest of the county and the city with the homeless and the colleges. Not one time since it's been opened up has there been any advertisement or anything going on there. I'm asking you, please, get Larry James there. Shut it down. I'm very serious about this because drugs and prostitution is allowed because they don't check the bags. Trust me. Trust me what I'm saying. Take my word on it. There was a county person that thought the colleges was not in a drug area. How can that be? How can one of the county people think it's not in a drug area? Okay? So whatever your interests are, please check into it. Show some interest, because I am fed up with this being so quiet. But before the college was open, we hear about it all the time. We haven't heard anything about it since. I'm going to bring up in front of City Council next week, but this has got to stop. This has got to stop, and you need to get involved in this. The City Council doesn't like the homeless. I understand only one person at the county commissioners like the homeless. They want to help the homeless. You show no interest at all, and people are going to commit suicide if you don't do anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, this concludes our public speaker.
All right. Good morning, everybody. The court will please come to order. We've
we've got a quorum present. That's right, and we've already opened, so we've just been in recess. We talked about the notices, great. So now we're just back on the record, and is the bailiff already open court?
No, he didn't open it.
And so, let's hear it, bailiff, open that court.
All rise. The Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the November 2017 term. The Honorable Clay Lewis Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
All right, very good job. Invocation time. Today is a guest of Commissioner Price. Commissioner Price?
Yeah, Judge, this morning, Officer Anthony Williams is doing double duty. He is also a minister, native of Mississippi, attended and graduated from John F. Kennedy Memorial High School in Mountain Bayou, Mississippi. He played basketball for Midland College for 2 years before transferring to the historical Black College and University of Mississippi Valley State. Mr. Anthony Williams moved to Dallas in 1986, later became a dedicated servant for Christ at the Eastgate Missionary Baptist Church. And now his tenure has lent his voice to the male chorus there. He directs evangelism outreach ministry, and he served as an associate minister. Designed to become more deeply rooted in the gospel and God's word, he enrolled and completed biblical studies at Southern Bible Institute. He is currently employed with the Dallas County Marshal Service Department for the past 3 years as our chief bailiff here and security officer, and he received an award for being the Employee of the Year. He's been married to his wife, Sheila, for 19 years, currently serving as the assistant to the pastor at Eastgate Missionary Baptist Church, where the Reverend Kennedy Young is the pastor. And Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Commissioner Price, for the invitation to do the invocation this morning. To all the commissioners, Commissioner Daniels, Commissioner Contrell, Judge Jenkins, Commissioner Garcia, thank you so kindly for allowing me this opportunity. If we would, let us bow our heads in prayer. Dear Lord, our God, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself. Thank you for giving us another chance at life. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. We thank you, O Lord, for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask now for your hand of blessings on this meeting. We ask now for your blessings on these, your public servants, the Dallas County Judge and the Dallas County Commissioners. I pray that you will grant them your heavenly wisdom, that they seek your guidance in all they say and in all they do for all the citizens of Dallas County. Fortify them with strong courage and guiding convictions of truth and justice for all. We know that there is no authority except from you, and those that exist have been instituted by you. We realize, O Lord, that we live in a diverse and large population in Dallas County and surrounding communities. We know that there are needs everywhere. There are those who don't have the voice to speak. But, O Lord, I pray that those who do have a voice will speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Yes, the voiceless are all around us in our society, those who are poor, weak, and vulnerable. But help us to realize that it's not enough just to try and patch up the problems in our society, but we must be a part of the solution, helping to prevent these problems from developing in the first place. Desmond Tutu once said, and I quote, "We need to not just be pulling the drowning bodies out of the river. We need to be going upstream to find out who is pushing them in," end quote. And then, oh Lord, I pray for the families that were so tragically affected by the shootings in Sutherland Springs, Texas. I pray, oh Lord, that you will give consolation and comfort to those who mourn at this time. Give them your peace, O Lord, a peace that surpasses all of our understanding. We pray for all families everywhere who have been affected by the evil of our society. I offer now this prayer and this petition. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Williams. That was good.
All right. Mouse Davis, Jerry, Rice, and you. Three great people come out of.
Even though we called and we did quorum, adjourn. Did not do the adjournment, we just opened court. We didn't do the adjournment. We didn't adjourn for the October term. We didn't adjourn.
Oh, we didn't, I got you. All right. So is there a motion to adjourn for the October term?
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And this being November, is there a motion to open for the November term?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, the pots are right. Let's keep playing poker, y'all. All right, so we got, I have the first two or three resolutions. Not real clear from the script here. And the first resolution is Employees of the Month. So if you're an employee of the month, will you please come forward? And our employees, if you're here, and our employees of the month are Naomi Daniel with the district clerk, Doug Engel with the fire marshal, Dr. Edward Bannister with the Health and Human Services, Thomas Lewis with Health and Human Services, Rudolph Phillip with Health and Human Services, Tamara Scroggins with Health and Human Services, Ganesh Shevaramayar with Health and Human Services, Srihari Sathe with Information Technologies, Sujana Vena with Information Technologies, Kumar Paruka with Information Technologies, Tracy Newbill with Information Technologies, Fani Saraswathama with Information Technologies, Vincent Coronado with Juvenile, James Downing with Juvenile, Edna Meja with the Sheriff, and Ronald Babineau II with the Tax Office. All right. Great to see y'all this morning, and our resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dallas County employees are hardworking, dedicated, and play a vital role in achieving the goals and objectives set each year by the Commissioners Court. Most employees perform above expectation and ensure that Dallas County continues to be a regional leader and a destination of choice for residents and businesses. Whereas Dallas County Commissioners Court authorized the creation of an employee recognition program in 2012 to encourage recognition of dedicated employees who represent the best and the brightest of our workforce. And whereas the Dallas County Employee Recognition Program is consistent with the county's approved administrative plan, under which the county seeks to operationally be a model governmental agency. These employees represent exemplar employees that Dallas County hopes to recruit and retain. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby salute the following employees for being selected as Employee of the Month in October 2017 for their respective departments, and offers best wishes on your continued success at Dallas County, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, y'all. Woo! Y'all get any words of advice?
Anybody wants to say anything?
No.
Yeah, say something. We always have work to do.
All right.
But we also have time.
Couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
All right. And will the following please come forward, and I'll ask all veterans in attendance to please stand while this resolution is being read. The Department Director, Veteran Service Officer, and Army veteran Zach Magura. Assistant Veteran Service Officer James Henderson, who's an Army veteran. Assistant Veteran Service Officer Levette Dominique, who's an Army veteran, and Assistant Veteran Service Officer Melissa Castillo, who's a Navy veteran. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas in November of 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the 11th of November as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words: "To us in America, the reflection of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory of World War I. And whereas on May 13, 1938, Congress made the 11th of November a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace, and to be thereafter celebrated as Armistice Day, which was later amended to strike out the word armistice and inserted in its place the word veterans. And whereas November 11, 2017, Americans will commemorate the 98th anniversary of this proclamation and honor those who have taken the solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And whereas the United States Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that over 101 veterans reside in Dallas County, and VA expenditures exceed $967,600,000 for Dallas County veterans as of fiscal year 2016. And whereas we recognize that once America's veterans return home, they continue to serve our country in new ways, bringing tremendous skills to their community and to the workforce. And let us welcome our returning heroes with the support and opportunities they deserve. And whereas the month of November 2017 has been proclaimed as National Veterans and Military Families Month by the President of the United States of America. And whereas the 2017 Greater Dallas Veterans Day Parade theme is honoring veterans of the Gulf War, Desert Shield, and Desert Storm, we recognize the sacrifice of the men and women that served in support of these military operations and their families that have supported them during and since their military service. And whereas all residents of Dallas County are invited to pay tribute to our veterans by attending scheduled events to commemorate them, now therefore be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize the outstanding contributions and sacrifices of all those brave men and women who served in America's armed forces, and urge all residents of Dallas County to show their appreciation for those who continue to serve. And I so move.
And I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you for your support, not only to our department, but to the whole county for veterans and their families. I know all of us in the department, it's been a great honor and privilege to serve, from homeless veterans to millionaire veterans and everywhere in between, and their families. So thank you all again for your support.
Thank you.
And on this line, I want everyone here to know, and I want us to do everything we can to push that out, maybe get a broadcast out. This year, to celebrate our veterans, what better way to celebrate our veterans than for 180 employers to come together and have 10,000 jobs up for grabs this Thursday at Gilley's from 10 to 2. There'll be, and I'm not kidding about this, there'll be a red velvet rope line for veterans, so veterans will move right to the front of the line at this job fair. This fair started off to be our annual Veterans Job Fair, but because the economy is going well and because of the success of the Your Hired Job Fair that was a couple of weeks ago, employers had asked to blow that out, and so now it's 10,000 jobs. And these are full-time jobs. The last job fair, and I want to make sure people know this for your families, last job fair was just 9 employers, and it was all about logistics, like shipping packages for Christmas. This job fair, it's 180 employers, so that person who has a master's degree who doesn't have a job or is stuck in a job that they're not being paid what they feel like they're worth, they need to know about this job fair. Anybody in a dead-end job, anybody not making a living wage, we don't have employers at these job fairs that don't pay a living wage. So it's a great opportunity, and we really want, that's a great way for us to honor our veterans. We want to get that out. If ever, I've got Workforce Solutions flyers for anybody that wants them upstairs. God bless y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Doctor, it says I have some other resolution on the script, but I don't know what it is, and I don't see anything on the computer. So if somebody knows something I don't know, please text me. Otherwise, Dr. Daniel has the next two resolutions.
And I will do that. As someone who has been diagnosed with diabetes, this is a resolution that is obviously very close to my heart and to my health. And there are representatives from Parkland with their diabetes efforts that are being, if you'll come forward right now, because whereas we are talking about National Diabetes Month, because every November across the nation, communities observe National Diabetes Month to bring attention to diabetes and its impact on millions of Americans. The Dallas County Commissioners Court joins the nation in observing National Diabetes Month and encourages action to raise awareness, support families, and to help communities take steps to curb diabetes. And whereas in 2015, diabetes was named the 7th leading cause of death in the United States, an estimated 30.3 million Americans had diabetes. Of that number, an estimated 1.25 million were children. The number of Americans living with diabetes grows every year. Approximately 1.5 million Americans are diagnosed with diabetes every year. And whereas in Texas it is estimated that almost 3 million individuals, or 14.2% of the adult population, have diabetes, and of those individuals, about 663,000 have diabetes and don't even know it. The issue is further compounded because an additional 6,884,000 individuals have pre-diabetes, putting them at greater risk to develop diabetes. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 9.1% of the adult population in Dallas County has diabetes, compared to 11.2% in Texas. Whereas the American Diabetes Association estimates the total national cost of diagnosed diabetes in the United States is close to $245 billion, including approximately $176 billion in direct medical costs and $69 billion in reduced productivity, which is disability, work loss, or premature mortality. And whereas there is good news, diabetes complications can be prevented or delayed by properly managing blood glucose, blood pressure, and cholesterol levels. Eating healthy, physical activity, exercise, and healthy behaviors such as not smoking also can help lower the risk of diabetes complications. Early diagnosis and treatment of diabetes may prevent the development of these health problems. And whereas Dallas County Health and Human Services has partnered with the Diabetes Health and Wellness Institute to provide a farm stand of fruits and vegetables for DCHHS employees and residents of Dallas County at the Health and Human Services building to lower the risk of diabetes and obesity. And whereas community education, an important piece to prevention and individual care, can be found at the Diabetes Clinic at Parkland. Parkland's global diabetes program seeks to create an environment that educates, supports, and encourages a productive and healthy lifestyle for people living with diabetes. Parkland actively cares for over 36,000 individuals with diabetes in Dallas County. Whereas people with diabetes can live a longer, healthier life with the right medical care, food choices, and good information about diabetes with the Diabetes Clinic at Parkland, offering care both at the hospital and in the clinic. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize November as National Diabetes Month. Let's support the effort to stop diabetes, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I would love to. My name is Luigi Meneghini. I'm the Executive Director of the Global Diabetes Program at Parkland, and I just wanted to thank the court and Parkland for recognizing the burden of diabetes that you just identified. It's a nationwide burden, and it's a particular burden here in Texas in Dallas County. I have good news, because over the past couple of decades, the risk of stroke, heart disease, kidney failure, and death from diabetes has been decreasing. It is still the complications of diabetes drive many of the costs that you identified, the morbidity and mortality. And I think that through a global diabetes program, which started in 2014, and not only provides inpatient and outpatient care, but works with the health system at Parkland and engages the community through a variety of activities, I think we can make an impact on both prevention of complications from diabetes and also prevention of diabetes itself. So with that, I wanted to thank everybody that has been drivers of this effort in recognizing the importance of diabetes and for your personal story with it. Thank you.
What do you do for Parkland?
I'm sorry?
What do you do for Parkland?
What do I do for Parkland? I run the Global Diabetes Program at Parkland. So I came here 4 years ago to create the program and develop it.
The CDC still says that the zip codes that were the chronic zip codes for those same chronic illnesses are still premier in terms of our community. And so are you telling me that you've seen a downtrend in those zip codes as opposed to overall Dallas County?
I don't have those statistics. The statistics I was quoted were national statistics for the U.S.
I'm watching the 5 zip codes locally for all chronic diseases that are impacting, primarily my community and our community, and we have not seen a substantial decrease. One of the things that Commissioner Daniels talked about, other than not talking about the historical heredity with regards to what goes on with diabetes, is those are the same zip codes that do not have, that have food deserts, don't have access to food, healthcare. Same zip codes. We've got all the fried food establishments in the world, which are not good in terms of the whole diabetes piece. And so I'd really like to see what Parkland is doing in those zip codes. I've got some of the numbers from health fair, or what I call the southern numbers. But I'd really like to see the impact. I'd like to see what you spent last year, year before, and you said 2014. I'd like to see what you've spent all the way up until now.
So I think you bring out some excellent points. There are zip codes that are particularly affected by diabetes, and in those zip codes, the complications of diabetes are higher than in other areas in Dallas County. And as you well know, Parkland has positioned primary care clinics in zip codes that are highly affected and underserved to address this issue. We are a health system, we are a diabetes program, and what you have identified, I think, is key to turning the tide of diabetes, not only in Dallas County, but across the nation. And that is the infrastructure, the public health infrastructure, and the public infrastructure to address that. Because I cannot change what fried foods are being sold or how much fresh vegetables and fruits are provided. I cannot change the structure of the streets to allow individuals to be more physically active. I cannot provide them with jobs, but those are all absolutely essential elements if we are to properly address diabetes and not just provide a health band-aid, which is kind of what we do, because we need to go beyond the health system to address chronic disease and diabetes in particular. So I really appreciate those remarks.
One big thing that we are doing, we can do, and we've all got to step up in doing is there are 38 days left for people to go to healthcare.gov or call Parkland or call the Greater Community Council of Dallas and find out what healthcare coverage options are open to them. And this year, if you make between 100% of the federal poverty level and 400% of the federal poverty level, you may qualify for absolutely free health care at the bronze level on healthcare.gov. You may find what you're likely to find if, according to a Bloomberg study, for 80% of Texans, you're going to be able to find health care that still costs you $75 a month for your health care coverage. And we know, we've heard Dr. Daniel's story. My great-grandmother had diabetes, and there's so many people out there now that have high blood pressure and high blood sugar, and their high blood sugar is going to become diabetes. They're not even going to know it because they don't have a primary care doctor and they're not getting tested. If we can get people this insurance so that instead of us seeing them in the emergency room, they're seeing their doctor for their physical, finding out about the stuff, that would be so great. And I appreciate the work that Parkland is doing on that already. We've got to keep doing that because there's no federal budget this year to get the word out, and the healthcare sign-up period is only half as long as it always has been in the past. People are procrastinators. That's why there's a big line around the post office the day the taxes are due. So people are going to be waiting around till, February when the thing closes up in December. So December 15th is our last day. We just got to push like heck to get as many people covered so they're not at Parkland before December 15th. Thanks for all you're doing.
And also, in addition to what my two colleagues have said, Parkland is doing some health fair clinics this month. Can you elaborate where are they? I know that they are in some of the zip codes that are needed, but they also have them in English and Spanish and other languages, right?
The two health fair clinics are taking place in Blewett Flowers in Southeast Dallas. And the other efforts that we engage in are to try and promote screening and education in the community. We participated, for example, in MegaFest. We participated in Kwanzaa. We are putting together community conferences to address individuals who may or may not be patients at Parkland but are interested in diabetes and diabetes prevention. We've held an English conference, and in March we're planning on a Spanish conference to address this. But these are important efforts because, as you point out, information is key to make the right decisions, and that's the first step in trying to address a lot of the issues that we are faced with.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to be there, in one of the clinics, particularly the one in March.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the partnership that you offer, because I know that Health and Human Services also provides a lot of that community education piece that is so critical for what you're talking about here. And I would appreciate, too, you're talking about the incidents by zip code, because as I'm observing, too, that those zip codes are expanding, in particular, they're going eastward into the Pleasant Grove area, which is necessitating the Spanish language inclusion on a lot of those things. So thank you very much for all the work that's being done and the partnership that we're able to do to address this issue.
Thank you.
The second resolution that we will be presenting this morning is a joint effort between Dr. Garcia and myself, because we are recognizing a woman, Vivian Castleberry, who has left her legacy not only for the number of events and items addressed in the resolution, but also for all women. So Dr. Sherry Johnson is here to represent a number of women's groups, but also would women stand up, because all of us are being particularly impacted by the efforts of this particular woman. So if we would begin.
We will read the resolution, and reads as follows. Whereas Vivian Anderson Castleberry created a legacy that will have a lasting impression on all who knew her, family, friends, and the many Dallas County residents who have benefited from all her efforts. From the very start, Vivian was determined to live a meaningful life and had the great fortune of growing up in a home with supportive parents who did not believe in the limitations of the status quo and who encouraged her to educate. Whereas Vivian Castleberry, Texas native, and longtime Dallas County resident, was born on April 8, 1922 in Lindale, Texas. Vivian and her family will later move to Athens, Texas, where she served as editor of the student newspaper and graduated valedictorian from Athens High School in 1940. After graduation, Vivian attended Southern Methodist University on an academic scholarship and will lead a successful campaign to become the first female editor of the student newspaper there. And whereas Vivian Anderson and Curtis Castleberry, classmates and friends, married in 1946 and together raised 5 wonderful daughters, Catherine, Carol, Chanda, Kita, and Kim. Vivian was committed to living a full life. She was devoted to her family and was passionate about women's rights, equality, and humanitarian causes. Vivian Castleberry worked for the Dallas Times-Herald for 28 years as the woman editor and was the first woman named to the paper's editorial board. And
whereas Vivian's achievements are many, with some of her most noted being her induction in the Texas Women's Hall of Fame in 1984, founding the Peacemakers Incorporated in 1987, serving as a grassroots citizen diplomat for peaceful resolution of conflicts, and writing 4 books, Daughters of Dallas, The Texas Tornado, Sarah of the Bridge Builder, and Seeds of Success. And whereas Vivian Anderson Castleberry will long be remembered for her trailblazing spirit, go-getter attitude, and her fearlessness. She'll be remembered for challenging prescribed societal norms, pushing women's issues, and encouraging women of diverse backgrounds. Her spirit will live on with the multitudes of people she touched with her fervor and her friendship. Now therefore be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby celebrate the life of Vivian Anderson Castleberry, who came to be known as Dallas County's own mother for all of her contributions to Dallas County, Texas, and beyond. Vivian did not stop living life when she retired. She kept going, advocating for peace and continuing to uplift women. Thank you to Vivian Anderson Castleberry for her unwavering tenacity, and to her family for sharing Vivian, a loving wife, mother, and friend. We remember Vivian for a purposeful life well loved. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I just want to thank you all. Vivian's memorial services this Saturday, and Dr. Daniel and Dr. Garcia and I all owe her a personal debt of gratitude, but all the women and men in this room owe her, I think, a thank you for helping promote women across the spectrum in our community for so long. She was supposed to have been the escort for Mrs. Kennedy the day of the assassination, and her personal stories of that day touched all of us in Dallas County, but her impact went way beyond that. So thank you all for recognizing her, and thanks.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Johnson.
And our next resolution is from Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Judge, colleagues, members of the audience. The resolution is for Timothy Stark with the public departments. You all have the opportunity to read it for the last 3 weeks. Therefore, and I'm not going to read it. It'll be read at a later time. Thank you.
Moving it.
I move for approval.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. There's a little bit of a disconnect between what's on the computer and what's on the paper. Are there any other resolutions? Hearing none, we'll move to our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? No. There is another resolution?
No.
Presentation from
All
Health
right.
and Human Services.
Let's hear from presentations. And somebody want to tell us about the flu? All right.
We got judicial management.
I would like to take just a moment, because I think there are 2 things that we ought to take 30 seconds to recognize. One of them is that Dr. Steve Myth of Parkland has received a unique recognition this year, and he is being recognized as Social Innovator of the Year. His work with PCCI and Parkland. And so I know that there are some Parkland members here too, because all of us in our community receive the benefits of the work that he's been doing on just connecting the larger community and healthcare resources at Parkland. Would also like to take just a moment that on Saturday there was a very, very large health fair in Pleasant Grove. And I know that our Director of Health and Human Services was participated and represented Dallas County very ably. And I think part of it was there were like over 4,000 people who attended it, but how many doses of flu vaccine were also contributed by Dallas County to help in the overall health status in Dallas County. So hats off to Health and Human Services for the part they play, day in, day out, weekends, whatever it is, you know that Mr. Thompson and his staff will be out there.
Well, and on that note, I also want to recognize our director, Zachary Thompson, for the great job. I know that he was with you, Commissioner, in mid-morning, but we were at 8 o'clock in Irving with BAPS, and also a huge event where Dallas County Health and Human Services was there. I don't have the total numbers yet, but it was very well attended as every year, and I want to thank him for being representing us. And then I went to Broiler Recreation Center after Pleasant Grove. I know I missed Zach on the second one. So he was very busy all day because the Dallas County Health and Human Services Department was also there. As always, took a picture with our staff and sent it to Mr. Thompson. So thank you, Mr. Thompson, and to the Dallas County Health and Human Services Department for being the force that come first and foremost when it comes to Dallas County well-being. Muchísimas gracias. Sorry, Richard. That's it.
So our next presentation is judicial management. Anything on that today?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I'll kind of take both pretrial and judicial management kind of together. I talked about it a few weeks ago that, Dallas County, in terms of what we pay lawyers, we pay lawyers higher than any place else in the state. The rest of the state appears to pay right about what we call, $9. We're paying right at $12. I talked about the fact that we're not using the wheel. Around the state, I am told that for the most part, in order for the wheel to be utilized, that most of the time, anything over 12 cases means that the wheel is not being utilized. And so what I find interesting in, when I go in and pull these numbers from these various courts, I'm looking at lawyers.
And what he's referring to for our media friends is court-appointed lawyers, and the wheel is the randomized way that people are selected for a case rather than judges picking lawyers that they know from something.
It is supposed to be the designated way to appoint. And what I'm finding out by court is that there are a number of lawyers, and I'll start with 194. I mean, there's no way that a lawyer can have 230 cases. That's just incredible. But a lot of them have 39 cases. Here's a lawyer that has, and of course, I understand that when you talk about public defenders. But I'm talking about lawyers that are getting paid in $28 million in the 195th. And this lawyer continues to show up everywhere that a certain lawyer made almost $400,000, Mr. Auditor, according to your record last year. But he continues to show up on everybody's list. I mean, how does a lawyer take 55 cases and other 55 cases, makes $41,000, and basically has not tried 97% of the cases?
The 97%, Commissioner, have been disposed?
Yeah,
But
plead.
Okay.
Plead.
The same lawyer in different courts?
Same lawyer. And the 203rd case, you don't have as much violation there. You have basically lawyers, but lawyers are making 66 cases, 26 cases, and again, keep in mind what the standard is around the court, around the state, 52 cases. The judge of the 265th court, and again, the audit director, here is, now, what's interesting is when we look at the cases with the public defender, I mean, they're handling as many as 314 cases. But then you got other lawyers in there that have 50 cases, 35 cases, and there is no way, ladies and gentlemen, and look at all of the, and I will publish this for all of my colleagues here so that they can see where that $28 million is going. Now granted, the 283rd, the governor just appointed someone to get down on that court. But some of the same people that appear before this court talking about managing the court docket are the same people that continue to appoint the same lawyers. I mean, some lawyers are getting as many as 90-something cases. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we get this towed in a way that these judges are using the wheel? I mean, that's what they're supposed to be doing. And at $28 million, and that's up, Mr. Auditor, I think that's up from the prior years? Okay. And it's up significantly. We've got probably right at 50%, better than 50% of our cases being held by a public defender's office. I know Ms. Richardson is on. Mr. Blocker, you're here. You ought to come forward.
While he's doing that, Judge Roden, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there something that we can do, is there an order that we can pass that mandates people using the wheel? Because it is the state's preferred method. I think it is I don't know if it's preferred or if it's quasi.
Illegal.
It's the only legal way to do it.
It is.
But we all want that to happen. And I know the majority of the criminal court judges want it to happen. So what would be the mechanism of just making that the standard in Dallas County?
Judge, I would have to research that to see what the authority is, or if that lies ultimately in the judge's discretion, because that would be something we'd have to look at.
Yeah, so that's the thing I think the court would like to look at it. Is there a way to make it mandatory? And if not, then it's just up to each individual judge. And I think what Commissioner Price is pointing out here is that the number of appointments vary widely from court to court, and there are a few judges that seem to appoint the same people over and over and over again in their courts.
If I may address that question briefly. Senate Bill 7, when it was passed back in around 2000, it mandated, and it's been amended over the years, that there be a randomized will system be put in place. I know that over the years, Dallas County, in conjunction with IT, they have worked to make this will randomized, and it's available to all the coordinators in all the courts. There are certain exceptions for why a particular court or coordinator would not use a particular attorney that came up on the wheel. And when you click that button, it's supposed to generate a report that says, we skipped over this attorney because fill in the blank. And I don't know what the reasons. I know some of the reasons: the attorney's not qualified, the attorney's out sick, not available. Maybe they were found ineffective. Maybe they've been disbarred or suspended. But there are a number of reasons as to why a particular attorney would be skipped over. But it also allows for some discretion on the part of the court to insert or pick a particular attorney to appoint on cases.
I guess what I'm asking, Mr. Blocker, is still the Public Defender's Office with regards to, first of all the courts, Public Defender's Office in all of the courts, criminal courts in Dallas County.
No, Your Honor. With the exception of the 204th, I believe, we do have a presence in all the courts. We have at least one, and in some cases 3. But there's one court in particular in which we don't have a presence.
Who's the judge in that court?
4th, Judge Kemp.
That's the and there's some litigation and all pending with regards to,
well, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you guys were in that court.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Commissioner, up until March of this year.
This year.
We don't want to get into that.
I got it, but I just wanted to make.
I shouldn't say that.
That's okay. My point is that you are charged, at least by budget and by this court, with having to produce metrics in a way in those courts that says that you perform. Is that correct?
That is correct. We maintain very detailed stats on the number of cases that we're appointed on, from the name of the defendant to the cause numbers, how the cases are disposed of, so forth and so on. And we've been doing that for years now.
Okay. And you have a number, numerically, both in misdemeanor and felony courts, of that kind of production. Is that correct? Okay. Your office is budgeted by this commissioner's court. How many lawyers and what is your budget?
We have a total complement of attorneys, including Ms. Richardson, the Chief Public Defender, and myself. We're hovering right about 93 to 95. And misdemeanor attorneys are appointed on 100 new cases every month, and felony attorneys are appointed on 30 to 35 new cases every month. Now, some of those numbers do not include or account our participation in specialty courts, in which we're involved in 17 of the 18 specialty courts in Dallas County. These are just regular, everyday litigation numbers per court.
What percentage of the cases in Dallas County that you think you're appointed on?
51% of the indigent cases in Dallas County. Our annual budget right now is between 13 and 14 million annually.
So you're doing 13 to 14 million, and you're doing both, just a few on the civil side.
Yes, we also handle civil commitment cases with regard to commitments to the mental health hospitals.
And other folks are doing 49% of the cases, and it's 26 or 28 million?
28 million annually.
So that's 13 for you for 51, and that's 28 for them for 49.
Yes, Judge.
Do you have any studies that say that private defense lawyers who are given cases get better outcomes or get people out of jail faster, have better reoffense numbers, anything to recommend spending over twice as much of the taxpayers' money on a few criminal defense lawyers?
I don't have those studies at hand, but I'd be more than willing to do the research to see if there's
Are
anything
there studies that indicate that that defendants are better served by private attorneys than by public defenders?
Would you, because I hear that argument against the will, that the outcomes are better. I don't know. I haven't seen those studies, but it'll be interesting to look into.
The studies I've seen indicate that public defenders do every bit as good of a job as, and I want to be fair, because I'm sure there are a lot of studies out there. Maybe I just hadn't been reading the right one.
And remember, even when we talk about exonerations in this county, it was the public defender's office that was involved in 50% of the exoneration. Is that correct?
Right at 50%. Of the 37 to date that have been done, our office was involved in 16 and certainly involved in the first.
Well, that was the number of cases. I'm talking about the percentage of the...
It would be around 50% or just slightly less than.
And see, I guess what I'm saying is we're sitting here and it's though he just told you about Senate Bill 7, he told you what it is, and we're continuing in this county to do business as usual in terms of those dollars. And it's available in the auditor's office. I mean, we're going through all this and nothing has changed.
Isn't there a review of the wheel and the review of the method used to select appointed attorneys?
Review by whom?
And through the criminal justice and the...
I know that the state task force for indigent defense, they will do an annual or biannual audit of the courts and how the will system is used. And that report comes out. I believe the last one that was reported said that Dallas County was basically 90 to 93% compliant.
In terms of what?
Using the will and the number, and using the will and with regard to appointments.
Okay. Well, so I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm just, as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, okay, if I were a criminal defense attorney who relied on appointments, okay, pretend like I'm that person. If I'm not one of those chosen few dozen that keep popping their name up over and over and over again to get taxpayer dollars to represent people in a few courts, I'm probably not very happy with that, even though I'm on the, in this example, I'm on the private defense lawyer side. I probably would prefer the wheel be used so I'd have an actual chance at that business too, as opposed to the golden dozen getting the bulk of the business, right? So even the Dallas County Criminal Defense Lawyers Association ought to be for this reform of using the wheel, right?
I believe so. Many of my attorneys, many of the attorneys in the Public Defender's Office are members of DCDLA, and that is one thing that they're very interested in making sure that the number of appointments are given out evenly and making sure they're given out fairly.
We need to keep this system. This is a great system we got over here. They're saying we need to fix it too.
Well, the thing is, if I may be completely open and transparent,
be blunt.
the system is in place. It has to be utilized the proper way.
Yeah.
If it's utilized the proper way, then I think we will get more toward the outcomes that this Commissioner's Court is looking to see. You will see a more randomized distribution of the cases, and you will not see a particular attorney who has made $400,000 and hasn't tried a case in 15, 16 years, whereas you have another attorney toward the very bottom who has received just a handful of cases in the same year and only received $5,000.
And that $400,000 was in a 1-year period, not a 15-year period.
Correct.
So all we have to do is sign an order and tell those judges to stop doing that, right? It's called separation of powers.
No, I agree, Commissioner, and I know where you're going. But this is, like I said, at the end of the day, I mean, we're paying the tab. And he said it without calling a name, just like I did. But if you got a lawyer that for the last 3 or 4 years is making anywhere between $250,000 and $400,000 and is not trying dadgum cases, but he winds up on everybody's appointment list, I mean.
Well, you've got to list the judge and you've got to list the attorney.
I do.
And that's what's got to get out to the public.
Well,
and it ought to be on be on our agenda every week.
Okay, and that's the reason that's the reason bringing it up. But I guess what bothers me is that we got a public defender's office that has been highly touted in terms of the indigent defense. I mean, if you look at their trial of cases, their disposition of cases, what we task them with in terms of their metrics, all of that, and they're getting 13 to 14 million with 91 lawyers. Ryan and I are constantly arm wrestling about the fact, what do you have? Do you have 11 investigators now?
I believe last count we were up to 13.
You got 13. So you got 13 investigators, district attorney's office got what, 90 something?
Approximately 80
Yeah,
to
okay.
90.
You know, and I agree, they got all the, they
Right.
do all the cases.
But there's other counties that have come and looked at Dallas County to go to an all PD department, and it's actually cheaper for them to keep the appointed attorneys because their judges.
I just told you they're paying less. I just told you. I've looked at the stats.
So you've got two problems. You've got the will and you've got the amount.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but also you got this, see, here's another theory that I have, and it's just my theory, and I could be wrong, but let's say everybody started using the wheel. I don't want to get into what people's motivations over there in the other courthouse are for whatever they're doing, but if they're using the wheel, then would there not be more of a likelihood, since it's truly randomized, that they also would begin to use the public defender's office more? And again, 51% of the cases for 13 million or 49% of the cases for 28 million. And all the studies say public defenders do as good or better. Maybe it would be a good move on our criminal justice reform if we could bump that number up to 61% or 62 or 63%.
But again, that's their call. That's my point. They decide whether or not they're going to have a public defender.
That is correct.
Correct?
That is correct.
They decide how many public defenders they're going to have. Yeah. And if you and there's another game that nobody wants to talk about, and a lot of times they give their more challenged cases in some of these courts because we've been tracking them to public defenders. Is that correct?
That is correct. But across the board, you will also see a mixture of cases, whether they're revocations or even first degrees. But they will give some of the more challenging cases to the public defender's office, but they'll also give those out to the private bar because there's an opportunity for those attorneys to actually make a little more money on those cases.
Well,
When is the next outside review can be expected?
I don't have that information, Dr. Daniel. But I'll contact the representative in Austin and see.
Yeah,
and I'll let you know.
Having an outside entity review what's going on, see what the factors are, see if there are issues that we should be addressing.
Well, that's the reason, again, I continue to, that's the reason I keep bringing it forward. I guess, this court took and created, through the public defender's office, a capital defense system. What did we spend on that system? $500,000? $1 million? A little over $500,000. I've got several courts over there. Am I correct, Ryan? That spent over $1 million on a few cases. I mean, at what point in time do we not see what is glad? And I'm going to keep bringing it up until we we expose it. They don't have nearly the experience that our capital defense, when you look across the board collaboratively, that they have. They have tried in many cases, none of that. But yet still, we got courts over there spending $1 million on capital cases, and then we got our whole department here with all the capital cases spending $500,000. And I mean, nobody's saying. So each week it's going to be here. We might as well start to call it. It's one thing to go through it and call the numbers. We might as well start saying who is spending the money, the $28 million. We need to just say who's spending, and who the lawyers are that are getting, because it's the same ones. As he said, I did not solicit. I didn't even talk to him about this coming up today. He walks to the mic and says, a lawyer who's making that between $250,000 $400,000 hasn't tried a dadgum case in over 10 years. He said 15. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. My point is it really? You're making that kind of stuff? Then I don't know why anybody would have an office. Just stand around the court and be available and plead the case.
Well, and I think that, you and Commissioner Cantrell have very good points about how much can we do. I think Mr. Roden is going to give us some of the legal advice on how much we can do, and if nothing else, we just start putting it as our,
On the agenda.
on the agenda as how much money goes from which courts, and that's all we can do.
Okay, Mr. Block.
Thank
I know
you.
you need, and I know you need some more investigators, right?
I could always use, yes, more investigators.
Oh, that was a softy one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they always need more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blocker.
With regards to the pretrial release issue, you give the court an update, Mr. Heichel, in our meeting.
Yes, Commissioner, Judge and Commissioners, we had a meeting, Commissioner Price, the presiding judges, Birmingham and Mulder, and several members of the pretrial unit, including Mr. Steele, had a meeting about 2 weeks ago. As you recall, we're in the midst of a conversation about agreeing with the judges, or at least getting a consensus from the judges on hiring the consultant to assist the county in setting up the pretrial department. I heard from the judges yesterday. We had a meeting of the minds in terms of picking a risk assessment tool. That particular proposal should be in the court's agenda, either the second meeting in November or the first meeting in December. In the meantime, what we've been doing is we've had a consensus with the judges on some more employees to assist with the pretrial unit. We've already found them additional space in the Frank Crowley Courts building, and we're in the process of redesigning that space to accommodate those additional employees. We're continue using some risk assessment tools to get folks quicker out of the jail, for example, the crude step up for the individuals who have mental health challenges. And so we're moving ahead in these 4 or 5 fronts, working with the judges in terms of getting this pretrial unit up and running. So.
And the court knows, I think we generated an email that says for the first time in probably close to almost 10 years, we have a population now that is under 5,000.
I saw your comment.
Yeah, saw my comment. Yeah, okay, go ahead. But yeah, I just find it interesting. We got a population that's under 5,000, 49 something. And I do want to think the judges are doing that, but it's interesting. I mean, why do we always have to do that on election eve? I mean, why can't we just work like that all the time and manage? Because basically, when you, again, I told you the numbers the last time we were here. I mean, most of the cases are misdemeanor cases, and when we look at the mining community, there are a number of new pieces that we're publishing with regards to that. So I just want to thank Mr. Hyde and Mr. Martin, all of the judges who we met. We've got some direction. We are basically asking the consultant to look at the preferred instrument that they have chosen. They chose it. I asked Mr. Eichel to put it in writing, and they said that they liked it. We just want to make sure that there's nothing out there with regards to that instrument that gives us any pause or any concern. So we're proceeding in that level. The dry red, as I said the last 2 years, under the PR bond section, Dallas County has only issued about 6,900 in 2 years, according to the Dallas Sheriff's Department, where I pulled all of the bonds, 6,900 bonds. The problem is that I'm not able to show what the appearance rate is with regards to those pretrial bonds. And finally, I won't talk anymore. I'll keep these all on the docket. No more to talk about with regards to sign release at this point. But I'm still looking for that other information, because we did a walkthrough the other day. I'm still not, you're killing it, you're moving it on the front end, but you're putting it on the back end, and we're still going to be the ones responsible for the process. And there's nothing in the process that says that you're going to cut any time with regards of walking people through the process. So the only thing you're going to do is not book them in on the front end. And with regards to the juvenile court, I wanted to talk very specifically about it, but apparently some employees have filed an appeal, and I'm not able to talk about what I wanted to talk about very specifically with regards to that department and the ombudsman's report, as well as, and I'm going to keep it on here, because once we do this, I want to talk about the whole probation department within the juvenile department and the number of individuals over the last several years that have been involved in felonious crimes that supposedly were under our direction. So I was told this morning that because I've got appeals that I can't speak specifically to what I wanted to talk about in the ombudsman's report. So I will keep it on the agenda, but no sooner than we clear this personnel matter, and I'll talk specifically about that report. All of you have received the report, but you have not seen the responses that employees have given in regards to it. And while I think I could share with the commissioners, we can't talk about it among juvenile board because of the quorum, but you're able to see it now. I'll share that information. That being the case,
You will send it to us.
yes, ma'am. I will do that. Okay. That being the case, like I said, dry writs is kind of a non-issue, and everything else is kind of bundled. So that being the case, the judge coming back.
Is there a report coming out on the review of older adult services?
You had added that item on the state review of the older adult services.
Yes, that's a report. Mr. Thompson, you want to come forward with that? That is, you're right. I'm sorry, Commissioner, you're right.
Be remiss if I didn't thank Tamara Scroggins, Nurse Scroggins, for their help in the flu vaccines. They were at both locations, so I wanted to make sure. Okay.
I had put this on with regards because there was an allegation that had been alleged with regards to Dallas County Health and Human Services with regards to our older adult program. And it was basically a charge and an allegation that we were, quote, fleecing older adults with regards to the meal issue. It is my understanding, and I saw a report that has now been concluded with regards to that. So you want to bring the court, I think I sent it to the court.
Well, I just want to thank, first of all, thank the Commissioners Court for their support, Mr. Martin, Gordon Heichel, and of course I want to thank our Dallas County Auditor's Office who did the first review of the Older Adult Services Program. Basically, we now had the state auditors who also came in and concurred that there were not any issues with the donations that the seniors were asked to contribute. This is a statewide, this is a federal request that is done, and no one has found any issues. We've been in compliance. I also want to thank Diane Rucker, who is retired, who basically vindicates her in terms of what was given as a news story that we were asking or demanding donations from seniors. So this basically has been a step, but it started with the Dallas County Auditor's Office in their review. And so the state auditors reviewed it, and there were no findings.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think the record needs to be real clear to the public with regards to that program as you continue to operate it.
Well, and again, it's been operating for 30 years. Thank those commissioners who didn't call, and basically that meant they supported us because basically we follow the rules. I find it amazing that a news story drives a conversation that is not accurate and untrue. And you can find people, the problem I have is that when you dialogue with seniors, I got a 97-year-old mother, you expect them to remember things, you challenge them, and I think that's really, I think that's a real disparaging aspect to put seniors in. It's donations. They are asked to contribute donations. No one pressures seniors to pay for a meal. So that whole concept that they're asked to pay $1 to eat is definitely not true. And so that's been proven by the Dallas County auditors as well as the state auditors. So again, thank you for your support.
Did they, our branch get off the satellites?
Well, we're still looking for the satellites.
Still looking for the satellites, okay.
Yeah, they left Earth.
Yeah.
Next, we have our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Public hearing?
Well, the public hearing
What?
is going to be
Why?
rescheduled because that's been pulled from the agenda by staff.
Right.
So next we'll have,
Be held until November 21st. We'll bring that one back, along with the quarter
I
associated.
had all of my
next we're going to have, okay, hopefully this is
Try
right.
to put us together.
Next we got court orders. We got court orders L1 through 57 and addendums 57 through 71. Pulling 50 and 56 off the agenda, and pulling 35 and 64 for a separate vote, and ensuring that as we read, that before we vote on the larger group, we read the revised language into, Darrell, you read the revised language into 68.
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to separate 35, 68, and 64?
If anyone wants to separate 68,
Well, I thought because you needed to add the language, right?
Well, they can read the language.
you can read the language separate.
Either way, I just wanted to be sure. So you only separate 35 and 64.
And the DA's office would like to move 71 into close before we vote on that.
You want to do what? 71?
Yeah, that's what I
71 into
thought.
close before
That's
we
what-
vote.
yeah.
Bring that one back after closed session.
That's right.
Okay.
And Dr. Garcia, did you also want to move 69 into closed before
69 to review in executive session.
we vote on it?
All right, that makes more sense.
Yes.
Okay, so let me reread that. Okay, so we got court orders 1 through 56, addendums 57 through 71. Staff is going to pull 50 and 56 off the agenda. We're pulling 35 and 64 for a separate vote. We're pulling 69 and 71 into closed session for discussion before coming back out to vote on those. And,
Okay, so
that's the motion.
But since we're bonding them, because I'm going to vote no on 63.
Let's pull it then.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll move court orders 1 through 55
It's 50,
and
yeah.
and addendums 57 through 71, excluding court order 35, 64, 63, 69, and 71, and also pulling 50.
And 56.
And 56.
Well, okay, I did 1 through 55.
Oh, that's right, he did say 55.
Okay, well, anyway, that sounds good to me. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Judge, we have language to read in the record for both 18 and 68. Minor changes in both 18 and 68.
Okay. And I'll wait for information after we get to comment on information.
Okay. We're going to do the language on 18 first?
All right. On number 18, there are only two small changes. On page, or under section 6.5 of the agreement, the last sentence of 6.5 should be read to add at the end of that sentence, and section 3 of Exhibit D. And then on Exhibit D, Section 2, the last sentence of that provision should be read to add the following language after video, images, or other county content. It should insert, comma, or county content as defined in Section 9.3 of the Axon API Usage Agreement, comma, and then the remainder of the sentence stays the same. Those are the only two additions to that agreement.
You know now what I meant, right,
Yeah,
Commissioner?
I got it.
Judge, you ready for 68?
Let's go to the language from 68.
The language of 68, we removed the language that's currently in Section 5 and created the Section 5A and 5B. 5A will stay the same. 5B is the new language that we removed out and created this new section which reads non-solicitation.
There is a change
He's reading it.
to 5A2. It's underlined.
Change in 5A is just a minor change. It says in the last sentence, vendor during a year, the new language reads, accepted outside of the restricted contact period, do not violate this prohibition unless they influence or appear to influence a specific purchasing decision. That is the new language in 5A. 5B is the new section which reads non-solicitation. County employees shall not intentionally or knowingly solicit anything of value for themselves or other individuals or entities, excluding Dallas County, from vendors or persons or entities reasonably likely to seek to become vendors unless expressly authorized by the Dallas County Code. For purposes of this provision, employee means any person who works part-time or full-time for Dallas County, including contract and grant staff. Employee excludes elected officials. That is the non-solicitation clause now in
And
Section
Judge,
5.
this was your last email yesterday,
That's
right?
correct.
Which, can you elaborate on, I mean, as I read it last night, I struggle with myself to see the difference. Pretty much it's already explained in the code.
So there was some ambiguity that led staff to think that it would be okay to solicit charitable contributions from vendors, and we're satisfied that there's nothing under state law that's illegal or unethical about doing that. However, it can put a vendor in a difficult situation. If I'm a vendor and someone comes to me and says, can you give money to the American Cancer Society, and they're involved in the business that I hope to gain, then I might be more likely to give in that situation than I would if it were just my neighbor down the street. And so to avoid any appearance that anyone is being pressured to do anything or that anyone would be treated in any way differently, the former purchasing director, Mr. Garza, and I thought it would be advisable if we just, spelled out that when we're saying you can't solicit things of value, we don't just mean like a steak dinner. It could also be soliciting charitable contribution for the Cancer Society or, other things of that nature. So we just, to make that more clear, this was added.
So it's more clear, okay, more specific. But I mean, I just wanted you to.
And I don't think that under our passcode, the actions of the well-meaning person who sought a charitable solicitation did not violate our passcode. So I want to be clear about that.
Exactly.
Okay, be real clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Now they won't be doing that anymore, and they agree. They're one of the people who pushed for this
But I
change.
wanted to be clear that they did not
Violate our passcode.
Okay, and that's what exactly I wanted to, put on the record.
So this is
And of course, it was done yesterday, Judge. I mean, we discussed on our last card
actually done.
how we hate to do
I
these
know.
changes at
It
the
was-
last
it was-
minute, and you were on the other side, now we're on this one. But with that being said, I totally understand what you're saying,
It
and
was
if it's
actually
more
done 3
clear,
weeks ago.
I'm fine.
But,
We just didn't get it till yesterday.
well-meaning people attempted to work on it 3 weeks ago, and I helped in rewriting it for them here recently. But they were working on it timely, they just didn't have the success in getting it done.
Well, it is difficult the evening before to get a stack of things that have to
It
be
is,
reviewed.
yeah, absolutely.
And assimilated, thank you.
Not only that, Commissioner, with 3 different versions.
Right.
So until you get to, so that was part of my clarification today. Just wanted to be sure that I read the latest version.
And I know purchasing began working on it immediately, and as did the DA, and worked on it, but to make it a little bit, to make it effectuate what we needed, we had to get in there and help.
Thank you, Mr. Price, for your efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I will be supporting it, yes.
Sure. Right. Now, we're not just voting on that one little thing, we're voting on all of these, the unpulled court orders. Any further comments before we take a vote on the unpulled court orders? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move court order 35.
Second.
Right?
Yes,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Got it.
All right, and any discussion on 35? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Second. Commissioner Daniels.
You need to second, Commissioner.
Oh, I thought it went through.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Move court order 63.
That's 60.
That's Parkland. That's sale of old Parkland. Everybody's gonna be 47.
Well, I do have to say, and Commissioner, since I know you're going to vote no, I just want to say that I want to vote for this item with heavy heart. While I understand it was the best option presented and it was very well thought and it was very well analyzed, the reality is the density that is planned in this, in what could be the future of the old building, in my opinion, is extremely dense. So with that, I will, with heavy heart, I'm just trying to support Parkland and all the work that the committee has done. I'm going to support it, but not that I'm very pleased with the outcome.
Well, when you look at the sale of the old Parkland campus, the Amelia Court, and the associated land, and the costs associated, I know they sat down and went through all of that with us.
Yeah.
I'm just,
With all the different options, at least it was very well thought.
That's what they have
very
done.
good.
What else would they have done? I mean, because it falls well within, it's a good price. It falls well within the comparables. I'm looking forward to seeing what can be done with that property to enhance the hospital district.
And that is my concern. That is a plan that the reality is going to be up to the developer, the way it's presented. So
Exactly.
that will create more traffic, more obstruction, and a lot more complaints into the hospital district. That's my personal
From what I
opinion.
understood,
hope I'm
there
proven
is
wrong.
going to be a continued relationship, though, no?
but
For a
only
few years.
continued relationship is the fact that we are going to continue to fund and use part of that property until we
I thought there was also the right of first review. What is it?
Refusal.
I'm not sure
That
if it's
means
first
it can keep
refusal,
you
is
out
it?
faster.
Yeah, but
That doesn't mean-
Yeah, how quick they can kick you
Kick
out.
out.
Yeah, really. I mean, we sat there, we went through all of that. It's, you know, and again, I'm still tied to the property over here on Barbados. I'm still, I don't care what you say, it's a brother-in-law field, but, the $4 million property.
Oh,
Okay.
That was
Yeah,
a bad
right,
one.
because I had mentioned 4 million, we couldn't talk about it. But anyway, I'm gonna
I
vote.
voted against that too.
Yeah, I know you voted against it, I got it. But anyway, okay, it's before, it's called a question.
All right, any further comments? Hearing none, all those, I think you already voted. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
No, this one.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries
Now, is it
3-2. Did you
No,
vote against?
No.
It's really 4-1.
4-1.
She just did it with a heavy heart.
Heavy heart.
All right. 4-1 with one no, and that was Commissioner Price. The rest 4. Motion carries.
Move court order 64.
Any discussion? Hearing none.
Hold
Hold
on.
on. Let us catch up with all this.
Who's second? I'll second.
Right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Any abstention, or any against, any abstentions? I abstain.
I say too.
Okay, and that takes us to the two
Wait.
that
Yeah,
we need
there.
to knock out in closed session.
speakers.
We've got public speakers, let me see how many we got here.
Well, let me just say about information. At some point in time, we're gonna have to, I know that, Ryan or legal, that, that only requires us to be notified. But they're using all of these facilities, corporations, and they're running them through Dallas County. They're running millions and millions of dollars. And all the law requires is that we publish notice. That's it. I said that when I was on a prior vacation. I just find it interesting. We have a facilities corporation in Dallas. They don't want to use it. So they go all the way to Fort Worth or to, I saw one that Beach City. Where the hell is Beach City? All I'm saying is that we got a facilities corporation, and it's interesting how many people don't use it. And it always winds up on our information. So I'm going to always comment, and I know some of the schools and all here, but run it through their finance corporation. Really?
So Mr.
No, I'm just saying that happened in my district. I didn't even talk about, the university. That's not in my district, and Commissioner Garcia. But my point is that, they run them through other finance corps, and we've got a finance corp. I know why they do it. And again, I voted against, I think, 33 years ago. First thing I did on this court, Zale Lipshy. Zale Lipshy went through Bell County. Hell, I didn't even know where Bell County was. But we had a corporation here. They ran it through Bell County. And they can do it, I got it. But my point is that, at least I'm going to speak to the record. I just found it interesting. We don't even talk to these people. They said, we just file. We just file it in our records and walk on down the road.
So we've got two matters for today that of course, all the matters are important, but these are matters that there's public interest on, 69 and 71 that we'll discuss in closed. We also have some public speakers because members of the media here, I know some of them want to get out whatever's happening with opioids to their viewers. Let's go to closed session now. We'll begin that in a couple of minutes. We'll make any discussions, come out of here and vote. Our decisions will be made in public. Then we'll hear from all the public speakers on matters not before the court. So the court will adjourn for closed session now to consider matters under Chapter 551 of the Government Code as previously posted. Any action as a result of the closed session will take place in an open session once we get back. We're back from closed session. We have two court orders to vote on. I'll take a motion on Court Order 69.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those.
You need to read the name into it.
No, 60.
That's for the other
It's
one.
already there.
Oh,
We just
okay,
discussed it.
That is a different one.
Right, yeah, we discussed it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, Court Order 71. Is your motion on Court Order 71?
Yeah, so moved, and then you read the thing.
Right. And we need a second?
Second.
All right. And this is a court order to hire a law firm to bring a claim on behalf of Dallas County against the distributors of opioids. And the order was on our agenda. We're adding in the names of the law firms. The parties to this professional service agreement are Dallas County as client and the Lanier firm, Houston, Simon Greenstone, Panettiere Bartlett of Dallas, and the Cochran firm, a national firm with offices here in Dallas. These will be known as special counsel and have been selected pursuant to the Texas Local Government Code, Section 89.001.
make or accept those names?
Right? Second?
Yes.
Right. Any discussion?
Call the question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So, that concludes our orders before the court. We have a group of public speakers. You want to? Let's see, get the movie on it. Is that better?
All right, Judge. So let's start with item 71. What law firm did you all secure to pursue opioid-related costs, and what does that mean?
Sure. We hired one of the best trial lawyers in America, Mark Lanier from Houston. Also one of the best lawyers in America, Jeffrey Simon, right here in Dallas, and the Cochran firm of Johnny Cochran fame that has an office here in Dallas. We're going to go after these drug distributors that conspired and lied to push opioids out on the patients with a lie that when you're injured, you can take opioids and you won't get addicted. The reality is we know that's not true. This is the worst drug epidemic anything that street pushers ever devised. It's cost people their lives. It's cost our taxpayers a whole lot of money, primarily through Parkland. And we're going to go after these people and get you your money back.
Specific distributors, specific names?
Specific distributors, some of whom have offices here in Dallas, but there are specific distributors, and they'll all be named in the lawsuit that'll be filed here later this week.
Tarrant County is doing the same thing, Commissioner Taylor.
They are. I don't think they're quite as far along, but they're doing the same thing. I think you're going to see this happening more across the United States in bigger counties, particularly counties with the hospital districts, where our taxpayers are paying out over $500 million a year for uncompensated care. And a good chunk of that now is going towards, it went in the past towards pushing these opioids, with the untruths that they told our doctors. Now it goes for caring for people who got addicted to these opioids that they pushed for people to take. They made billions of dollars, but they cost our taxpayers money and they cost people their lives. We're going to try our best to hold them accountable and get you your money back.
And opioids don't serve any purpose?
Opioids are pain medicines. They don't work any better than many other pain medicines.
Says who?
Says studies by peer-reviewed journals like the Journal of American Medicine. The opioid industry used a non-peer-reviewed, that means the other doctors did not look at it, letter from a doctor. He said, I gave my chronic pain people opioids for a few months. It didn't seem like they got addicted. So they pushed that out. They spent millions and millions of dollars to fly this guy all over the world to tell this story. When the peer-reviewed journals were telling us that within 9 days of taking opioids, people begin to develop a dependence on those drugs. And it was not uncommon, and perhaps the people that are listening to the story will know of a person in their family who was injured 3 or 4 years ago or had chronic pain 3 or 4 years ago, and a doctor would give a 30-day script or a 90-day script for these drugs. If you get dependent after 9 days and somebody puts you on it for 30 days, then we're going to have a big problem. It's not the doctor's fault. They took this information from the distributors, but it's the distributors who do it. Those distributors have to, by law, know where every one of their pills were going. And so they could look and see when they see these pill mills pumping out, millions of pills in a town with 10,000 people in it, where they can look around Dallas and see these pill mills, and they know that they did nothing to stop this.
Are you the first county in Texas?
I don't know. No, we're not the first county in Texas. I believe Upshur County, represented by the same lawyer that we're represented by, was the first county in Texas. Rodney Ellis, who's a commissioner in Harris County, and I went to Portland and met with a group of county commissioners about this problem about 6 months ago, because this is a nationwide problem. These pill mills are popping up, people are getting addicted, our public hospitals are being overwhelmed, our taxpayers are paying money, people are dying. There's more deaths from opioid overdose in America than all other drugs combined. This is a monstrous, huge problem, and this is rich people that made millions and millions of dollars in salary a year, in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses, wearing suits, living in palatial estates, causing this problem, knowing while they're causing it that the information they're relying on is untrue.
Be sure to watch Channel 8 Thursday night at 10 o'clock to see what Chip Busted coming in. Is everybody done with that? Little plug there.
I'm going to say that for you. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that for you.
Let me do that on camera. Yeah. Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay, question about number 68. You guys tightened the ethics rules.
That's right.
And basically what I see you doing here is addressing the ambiguity of soliciting charitable contributions. Could you tell me what...
The ambiguity of soliciting anything of value for any third party other than Dallas County. So that could be a charitable contribution, that could be a contribution to your association, any contribution.
Okay, and why do you feel the necessity to tweak the language?
Well, we don't believe that there's anything in Texas state law that makes it unethical or illegal to do that. However, we feel like it puts vendors in an uncomfortable situation to have the people they're seeking to get business from requesting things from them. It's kind of an uneven bargaining position there to decide whether they want to give to charity. So we have tightened that up so that here in Dallas County we will be doing it. We recognize it's a statewide practice that happens at a lot of places. We just don't feel like it's a best practice for us.
And I'm not clear on what the consequences for doing this are.
Well, if employees violate our county policies, then they're subject to discipline by the county. So that could be, depending on the violation and the severity of that, it could range anywhere from reprimand, suspension, even losing a job.
Okay, and any pending litigation or any matters of enforcement pending against the elections administrator? How's that being dealt with?
Well, again, if you're referring to when the elections administrator sought a charitable contribution for a pediatric eye center at Duke, this rule would not have been in place, so there's no enforcement action.
No, I understand, but that's not what the subject of my investigation was. The subject of my investigation was her receiving funds and soliciting favors from several vendors, soliciting favors. And the law currently says, shall not solicit except money, loans, gifts, meals, entertainment, lodging, favors. She clearly did that, did she not?
Well, anything regarding that would need to be referred to the district attorney's office. I'm not saying there is any investigation.
It's not a crime. It is a violation of county policy.
If there is anything going on with that, that would be done through either the civil section or the integrity section of the DA's office.
So there's no investigation?
I can't confirm or deny any investigations that are going on because that's not what we do. But if there is one, it wouldn't be my office, it wouldn't be the county judge's office doing it. It would be the DA's office, and you should check with them.
Okay.
What did you all decide about the tire recycling center where the fire was recently? And let's talk about that first.
Sure. So at 8 o'clock today, we had a hearing on the tire recycling center. There's a very large tire recycling center in southern Dallas County. It was acting outside of the scope of what little permits it had, and essentially had no county permits to be doing what it was doing. We brought an action against them a few months ago. They entered into an agreement to come into compliance with certain rules. They completely failed to do anything to come into compliance. The fire marshal asked for a hearing. They did not show up to the hearing, and so the court has moved forward with shutting down that facility. Concerns from that are that these tires will find their way to other, be dumped on land somewhere else in Dallas County or the surrounding area. So we're going to be looking closely for that. If you're considering dumping tires, I would say, think twice about that, because we're out there, we're looking for you. And what this sends a message to not just this person, but to others, is we are cracking down on polluters in the unincorporated areas who are continuing to expand their pollution. You've got property owners down there who are enriching themselves to the tune of $60,000 a month to let these polluters continue to do business there. And we're going to do what we can to protect our environment and to protect Dallas County and to protect the Trinity River.
Some of those polluters there, we're talking about the Long Dowdy Ferry, is that correct, sir?
That's right. A lot of polluters, not just limited to Dowdy Ferry, but if you drive down Dowdy Ferry Road towards where the, I think it's called the Hunting Club or Gun and Tackle or something like that club.
Dallas Hunting.
Tell me the name.
Yeah.
What is the name?
It's the Dallas Hunting Club, yeah.
Towards where the Dallas Hunting Club is, before you get there, you'll see just a variety of junkyards. And those are all areas that are being looked at closely and have been inspected recently. Many, if not all of those, are under a time limit to bring themselves into compliance by November 15th, or the next step in action will be happening. As we see an explosion in growth here, and more people wanting to build in unincorporated areas, it's important that we make sure that our growth is not growth in people wanting to open a junkyard because they can't get a permit in Lancaster, so they'll go over to where it's unincorporated. That has a toxic effect on all of us. I think I saw in one of your news stories aerial footage of tires, mountain tires, not at this Vista, but at another location on Dowdy Ferry Road, just flowing down into the Trinity River. Those end up in Ellis County and Navarro County and all the way down the river. It's a bad thing we've all got to do.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.